I thank Sudhir for accepting our invitation to address us despite his hectic schedule. Distinctiveness of Bangalore's architecture is the topic of Sudhir's talk today. And now I invite Sudhir to take over.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me, all of you.
You can increase the volume a little more.
A little more? Okay,
Yeah.
just get the mic this side. So, just a minute. Thank you for inviting us for Rotary Club of Bangalore, giving us an opportunity to participate in this lovely evening's talk. I'll just run you through what we feel and how we have been working. We are called Gayathri and Namith Architects. Gayathri and Namith are the two founder directors from Bangalore, and we are around 50 people, architects. The firm started in '93, and now we're around more than 25 years. And from a small garage in Kormangla, we started and kept on growing. Interesting as our flair for design has been, we've been doing various kinds of projects, a multidisciplinary professional firm. So we have from all facilities from corporate offices to hospitality to hotels and interior. Okay, next. Yeah, so a couple of awards, a lot of, as Mr. Sunil told, we have more than 35 awards, national, international, and some of the projects we have done, we were felicitated by the president for some of our rural works which we have done. For example, Gorukana and all the things of the Gorukana, the tribal with Dr. Sudarshan, we were associated. And I don't know if you know, because President Abdul Kalam went and spent a day with Dr. Sudarshan for his work. We've also done something for Ratan Tata and Sam Pitroda on in terms of revitalization of local health traditional medicine, a kind of a campus for them. With SM Krishna, we were associated with a different type of work in the city. Next. These are the awards we want. This hospital, I don't know if you know of, many people would have stayed here, called the Serai Coffee Day, which we did for the late Siddharth. It won an award from France for us on that. And sorry, this is another global award which we won from the US. Out of the 365 entries, 2 projects of us got the award. One for the project in Bangalore, which I'll be showing to you, and one of this self-sustained platinum rated building in Delhi. So the distinctiveness of the interesting part about the Bangalore architecture, I just like to go back to history to understand the kind of way the architecture has grown in Bangalore. I don't know, I mean, most of you would have heard of it. You know, Bangalore was a small pete during Kempegowda's time around the 15th century with small boundaries. You know, they had this 4 posts from Alsur Lake and the different towers, 4 towers. They were built with mud walls and, you know, it was surrounded that. After that, how the influence during the 17th century from Tipu Sultan, there was an influence of Islamic. Then it came a little bit of colonial architecture. If you see the Bangalore Palace, and then you see the neo-Dravidian architecture that happens. If you see the Vidhan Sauda has been a very distinctive part of that. You know? So I just want you to see that in terms of how Bangalore has adapted its architecture to these various kind of influences and how progressive it was. So we take inspiration from there and kind of keep working on that. It went from a mud architecture to influence of the Islamic and how colonial, and every time it's been progressive. The expression has been absolutely progressive. Next. So the advent once from the 15th to the independence, and then we see Bangalore has taken a different shape when it started next. Yeah, so if you see during time, there are 2 parts of the Bangalore architecture too. One during time where the architecture kind of kept progressing, the pollination of different architectural characters started happening. The next is when Bangalore started becoming a Silicon Valley, you know, onset of technology, and you have a lot of, it became a space for people all over the world to come here. So these expressions have been kind of inspiring, and to see how Bangalore has a very kind of advent of global. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, now we can hear.
Yeah. So if you see, look at that, the second part of Bangalore's growth is when it started becoming a Silicon Valley, the technological hub. I mean, everybody knows the pleasant climate, the tropical climate here, moderate, and it's very salubrious. And the amalgamation of different cultures, what we have, has created a new unique opportunity. So in this part, we had this beautiful opportunity when we started during the time in the 1993, when we started seeing the next growth of Bangalore. So we always believe the outside in and the inside out of all things that push us to build is how we get inspired by nature. So we always like to wrap around nature. And Bangalore is the most adept place for that. So we've kind of inspired from there. I will just walk you through a couple of projects we have done and how we have distinctively got inspired by these different characters, from an institutional building to different kind of urban fabric building, and to some of our conservation building, which we are doing in Bangalore in terms of that. Many of you would have heard the People's Education Society, that is the institute in Bangalore. We have been doing a lot of work from till around 15 years or more. We have done a lot of work. We have built close to 2 million square feet of their education facilities. So the inspiration has always been a part of how do we integrate the character and the local ethos into the space. So this is their campus in Baswangudi, where we created a lot of different buildings. But we kind of integrated this, how do we create the openness into this whole space. Learning is an interesting how adaptive and how open we can be in terms of nature. So this particular campus, which we designed in the Hosur Road campus, it's a 100-acre campus. We wrapped the whole building with terracotta. So automatically you can see the difference from a typical glass facade and how we use the local, because Bangalore bricks was very famous a couple of decades back. So we kind of restored that and put all the facades this is the main engineering building. In this 100 acres, we designed the whole campus, from the engineering to the management and all the other facilities. But we kind of played with the minimal intervention of glass and the facade of brick, so that you have a very pleasant visual, and also use the terracotta facade, so the building doesn't get heated up. Then these are the central courtyard, wherein we have this large central courtyard, all the learning or the informal kind of classrooms that happen into that space. We use that space and adapted that space into that. So this is where, and all the central areas is the hub wherein we want people to come together, but we've used that place to make it like a indoor games, and also like an open air theater to add to that. This is the Silver Jubilee building. Again, you see the character change, because this is when PES kind of grew big and they wanted to create a statement, and we also they have a lot of connections with the US universities. So we wanted to adapt and kind of build a different statement to the building. So it's a very challenging building. You have at the third floor a very high, a large auditorium, and then some classrooms on top. So this has been a very interesting challenge for us in terms of that. These are the indoor spaces and libraries and the other facilities. I think, I mean, I had the honor to come to your center many years back. The late KV had called us to come there, and we were also happy to design his. I think most of you must have gone. I don't know who would have gone there. So he was a very different man. We really enjoyed working with him. So instead of doing a typical factory like normally anyone would do, so we kind of made this factory very innovative, with a lot of kind of technological influence, but still keeping the vernacular ethos and character of Bangalore. So if you look at it's in Sakalwara, so the flavor of the village had to be carried in, you know. So the progressive growth of the factory, we see the green sheds are the large factory sheds, but the fronts are the humble admin block, and also to keep the inner parts of the courtyards all. And as you enter, you have this large open kind of a court. You walk through this water court and come into these different courtyards. And these interesting courtyards are actually for ventilation. See, these are all simple inspirations from our local vernacular flavor, where we have these central courtyards and that just acts for ventilation and hot. We didn't want to use large ventilation turbines and everything, so that we created that. This is another large building in the center of Baswangudi. We had this challenge of in 3 acres, we had to create this residential complex. It was abutting the Ramakrishna Ashram. So it's around 14 acres. So we wanted to use that green and create this character. So we went back to the old flavor of Bangalore architecture and how we could connect with that. So Baswangudi is about heritage. Then you have the seamless luxury, and then it's to create a community was our. So it's called the Swasa Homes. It's and it's come out very interesting. So we brought in the old aspects of these heritage architectural character into. So this is on the 21st floor. You can see the Lal Bagh. It's got a seamless kind of a vanishing edge pool there, which happens toward the edge. This is we used to see there was an option. The builder could have built around 600 apartments, but we kind of minimize that. If you could look at this greenery on their bank, that's a Ramakrishna ashram there behind. So we wanted to keep the greenness and somehow build kind of low footprint but high rise, so we can continue the landscape happening there. So this is the shot, the drone shot of the 21 floors over there. So the idea was this is a 21 floor building and we use the latest technology. So the idea was, how do you create one large beautiful community? So if you go to all our old places, it was very open and it was very inviting. So like we just didn't build like normal builders start from the ground floor. We kind of kept both the floors up and we made it inviting. You have these nice lounges and informal cafes happening there. This is the Saraswati library, which we created for them. This is the library block, which is looking into the garden, into the green space. These are the informal indoor spaces happening there. So it's a new experiment of how a community can be developed and kind of mixed with the landscape. So the 3 acres are beautifully used into that. I'll go to some few residential villas which we did, again expressing the Bangalore climate and how we can use. There was this beautiful. It's a small plot around 6,000 square feet, wherein it was called the White and Wood Villa, where we just used white and wood as the theme for that. The client was very much influenced by this Mediterranean style, and we were kind of looking at how can we integrate the Indian courtyards into that. And we came up with this amalgamated, interesting architecture, wherein it's still modern at the same time. It is so. This is how the entrance is. You have a small entrance canopy, and the whole thing is white, and it's rounded the edges, so it kind of expresses the Mediterranean character and opens out into this large greenery here. So this is how we bring the inside out. If you look at this is the living room. In a press of a button, the glass screen moves and closes the whole space. So the dining area and the living area opens to the garden. So I feel this salubrious climate has to be experienced and enjoyed. Most of the time we kind of sit indoors. So I feel this is our expression of architecture. We've been lucky with our good clients to work on this. This is the master bedroom where we made like these open, like you have the open showers in the resort. So we kind of did that. This is another interesting home. Again, we used all local materials around like granites and the other things, but still the expression is very contemporary. This building is facing the Bengaluru Lake. So we want to harness the visual looks. I mean, ours is the only luxury city where we have lakes, we have parks, we have trees, and even though it's alarming the way it's decreasing, but I think we should restore and try to harness whatever we have around. So this is the initial conceptual plan, but what was designed around that. And so what comes out is everything looks into the lake. So all materials what I use are the local granite, which you get from our surroundings there, slate, which is there, and visually looking into the space there. So when the inside and outside becomes very seamless, in our climate, we can enjoy this, which we can't do in the northern part of India because of the heat. But here we can do. So we just use 2 materials, bare cement concrete, and then we have this black tile, and the water is welcomed into the space. So we kind of made a water court. So there was this large boulder around that side. So we kind of scooped out the boulder as one of the part of it, instead of again transporting it outside and do that. So we just kind of expressed, we bought this artist, stone artists and sculptors, and we sculpted that rock and put a glass tower, and then goes up. All the waste stones are, you can see, spilled around that place there. The views from each room, so every room we have kind of mezzanine. So we also play with volume so that it doesn't heat up the building. If the building is very small, it heats up. So we kind of played with volumes. So you have mezzanine thing overlooking, that's the lake, Bengaluru Lake. And this is the inside space where you use recycle. We work with a lot of sustainable materials. We recycle paper and made like paper lamps. And there's this natural light. As much as possible, we give natural light. And there's a central kind of a courtyard there. We promote a lot of artists. This is a beautiful art. A lot of Indian temple art form in the south, they use it with natural dye. You know, I don't know if you've seen this. There are these orange seeds, and you know, which we make that. So we crush that, and this is not any of our chemical paint. So we are kind of promoting these artists to sustain their living. So this whole Dashavatara painting was done of that. This is the puja room. So an interesting mix of the contemporary flavor, but at the same time kind of rooted in the Indian spirit was our thing. This is the view from one of the rooms, wherein you see the lake and the facades there. Some of the, and also our experience with technology, we did a lot of technology, I mean, corporate offices and software. Here again, the idea of why only keeping it glass and why can't we make it more innovative? So we studied, this is one of the IBM's building in Bangalore. So we see, one has to notice that continuously working in front of the system, one gets jaded, you know. So natural light and energy is always needed to develop. So here we took the inspiration from our Indian architecture. We have a central light course which filters light. We studied the sun path diagram and to know how to create baffle walls to reduce the heat on the building. So even though around 200 people work there, we have to condition the air, but at the same time, you can minimize the energy on that. So we were kind of successful in this IBM project. And again, the local stone, we use this refractory brick stone, which is reused, and use louvers. So it's an interplay of interesting play of glass and brick. You know? So we've been continuously kind of working on different projects, and we always try to innovate different things. This was an interesting building, but we started post-pandemic. It's a completely a precast building. You know, these are some of the things of the future, wherein you don't build everything at site because you don't have space. So this is a 4 lakh square feet building. It's a software building. So from the basement till the last end of the roof is completely precast. So we took 6 months to design it. Each element is precasted there, and we are kind of coming and putting up. So in the pandemic building, this building went on when there were no laborers also. You have minimal people at site because you didn't have to depend on many people on that. So if you look at the whole way, it looks into the Bengaluru Lake. So the glass opening is over towards the lake, and we use these kind of interesting louvers, all precast. So precast is the future, which is already in the West. So we kind of adapted and trying to work with that building there. So these are some of the precast building shots of the site. So these are some of the interesting projects which we like, wherein this is the urban development project, wherein Gayathri and Namith and all of us look at how can we give back to our city. You know, we have taken and we all want to be part of the city. So we also engage ourselves with some way where we can connect and do a difference in the urban infrastructure. So everybody would have seen this MG Road Boulevard. It's called the Rangoli. You know, the MG Road, when the metro came and was designed to connect, cut through the whole MG Road Boulevard. So it kind of cut that whole thing and spoiled the whole character. So we came up with an idea, why don't we create the whole walkway which was there earlier, similarly, but make use for the people to use. So Rangoli is a place, the whole 1 kilometer stretch, because any metro which cuts through an urban thing, the clear real estate value is lost. But we wanted the government to somewhere give something back to the public. So this building, this kind of a space where there is a small kind of a Nagara Pete, we call, a small place where people can come and display their work. Rangasthala is a small auditorium is there. And below there are galleries there, and there's something for the kids. So the 1 kilometer work, we can see this is the metro, which is on top, which is coming, and we designed this whole space below. So this won us an international award for how kind of restoring the urban fabric and how we reuse the metro line work to this space there. This has been an interesting experiment, and how we had to work a lot with the government to kind of give us the permission to work through. At that time, the metro chief was also very, and all of them were promoted well. So this is the way you see, this is the below what you see is where the display area. So it is anywhere if you want an artist to display his works is very expensive in galleries. So here he can come just with a nominal amount, he can hire a gallery, he can go to the space, he can come and work. So this whole space becomes an interesting urban fabric there. So it is a nice example, and we were called further to the different parts of metros to how we can work on this kind of an idea. I mean, thanks to Bangalore Metro, we worked something like this here. So this is the small gallery which we work. People can come and exhibit. You see the small areas where the kids can come and play during the weekends. This is another, what we started noticing is as the urbanization is more, the large pockets of greenery are in with the government. So here there was an interesting, the BWCB of Malleshwaram has it's a heart of Malleshwaram, and you see the thickly populated Malleshwaram. One area BWCB owns around a green pocket where all the water storage facilities are there. So we went to the government and asked them that why don't we allow the public to use the space? But we had to kind of tell them that why don't we showcase what they do, what good work do. So this is an interesting where there is how the public engagement with the government can identify, wherein this becomes a space to showcase what the government do. The BWCB does enormous work. They have that whole the infrastructure of how the water gets from one place to the other. It's amazing. And today was a water day, so I feel we are not understanding the need to conserve. So this becomes a space from anybody can understand about this space and have knowledge. So school children can go there, understand the fabric of the water, what's happening there, the quality of water, and what's the future. But we had to get it such a way that the government has to understand about that. At the same time, the public has to create awareness. So this is how that there was a beautiful old sump tank. If you see there, this was in it's around 100 years back, 1898, they had this. The British built the first, it was the highest point in Malaysia. The water was circulated there. So now it's kind of dilapidated. So we use that. We asked the government that why don't we do something for the public? So this space, this is how the old sump was, it's GLR, groundwater reservoir. So we used that and converted that to museum. And then we made like a small open air auditorium where people can come and sit and use the space. This is how it is inside, So the water storage, we slowly opened out and making like a complete walkthrough where people can understand about water and the necessity of water and identify the importance of water. So we are restoring this 100-year-old groundwater reservoir to a nice museum, and that's an interesting task for us, and it's on progress at the moment. And this is how so what we also did was we asked the government, why don't you give a little space so it becomes like an open air theater so people can come. So if the government can identify different zones in Bangalore where they have these main centers, and we can work something out so the public can go and use those space, and the government also benefits and the public also benefit from that. This is an interesting experiment which is going on, and this is the finished BWC. It will be restored to the same old way to do that. This is some of the views of that space. This is how the inside would look once it's completed. This is another shot wherein you go in and you kind of understand about the whole waterworks, water system, how difficult is water storage managing in Bangalore. It's not easy. It's pumped from a different place all the way to there, and how important it is to conserve water. So this is a nice place. This is how we are kind of creating some models inside the tank for them. These are some of the views of the inside space. We are also into a lot of heritage and restoration because we believe in restoration is very important. Bangalore has got very few buildings left, and we have been fortunate. So we have a separate division. So we are doing this St. Mark's Cathedral. We've started with some of the work, stopping the leakage and, kind of restoring some of the removal of the excess paint, restoring the stained glass work and that kind of work. So this is one work. We did a little work in the Bangalore Club. We are also doing the Mysore Palace restoration, part of the before the Tipu invention. When it happened, they had burnt down that after the Tipus, and then we are restoring the oldest part of the palace there. This is another, also the church, we are working in cantonment, and again, we are doing this work. So the idea is how, and Bangalore is the place I feel it's got this different character. This is our office. We have our office. The main office is in Kormangala. We wanted to express the way. So our office is completely open. The ground floor and the first floor are the studios. We have an office in Delhi also we operate from. So the elements of nature is our main inspiration. If you see, these are recycled wood or water, air, and this is the entrance place. So thank you very much for giving your time. I think I kept my time, and thank you for listening to me. Hope I didn't bore all of you with my talk. And all of you are welcome to come to our office. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me, Vincent?
Yeah, very well, very well.
Thank you, Sudhir, for that excellent presentation. Very interesting topic, and I'm sure Rotarians have enjoyed listening to your talk and the visual experience of seeing the various spaces that you have built. And as many Rotarians will be interested in visiting some of your projects. We will take it up with President on arranging something like that once the pandemic is under control.
You are welcome. Always welcome.
Also, this Boulevard project in MG Road, how well is it maintained today? Now it's about 8-10 years since it has been completed. How well is it maintained before the pandemic? Is it being maintained well and used well?
I think the whole idea of ours when we started this around 15 years back, Namith and Gayatri really kind of thought of this idea that how do we kind of create a space like that. But we wanted the public and the government to come together. So this whole thing now, it is actually maintained pretty well. I don't say it's very well, but what I feel it's a cost-effective kind of a space for people to come and exhibit work. So we started something called the Design Uru. So every year there's a kind of design essence of Bangalore is kind of showcased there. So every throughout the year you see different people and coming, artists are coming, cultures are happening. I feel some movement at least happens, or there is no space at all in Bangalore. Any of these have to come, you have to hire an expensive place. So our always endeavor has been how do we make spaces cost effective and kind of make it. That's what we're trying now again in that BWSSB other option which we're trying to do. So it's an interesting kind of an experiment, and I think partially we've been successful on that.
I think President Rotary can also use that space for showcasing some of the tribal works which badly needs to be exposed in cities like Bangalore. Another question for you, so Sudhir, is like the BWSSB project that you have described in Malleshwaram. What stage of construction is it at now?
It is, there are two parts. The first part is retrofitting the old 100-year-old building, so we have that the initial part is finished, but the other parts of OAT, so I would say around 60% of the work is done. It's getting done. It needs another, because the pandemic, it got slowed down and it has to pick up pace.
Okay.
Hopefully around 4 months from now, it should finish.
And who is funding this project?
It's part of the government itself. The BWSSB, see, the idea is, I think it's just a matter of how we kind of speak to the government, and also government finds it. I mean, always the government looks up for something interesting, but it depends on us. So we went forth and asked about why don't we do something like this, and how do we kind of showcase the quantum of work you do. So it was a kind of a good win-win formula for both. So if this comes, I think in Malleshwaram will have a nice lung space to come out in the evenings, people to walk, use that. Obviously, we need to make sure that the tanks are all kept private and people can't use that. Around at least 5 acres is given out for the public to use.
No, yesterday the Fort High School in Baswangudi, I think, was handed over to the government by Intact. Do you know who
Okay.
did the restoration work for that project?
I'm not sure about that. So that,
Very well done. I've seen the pictures of it.
okay.
And the
Okay.
Saturday night there was a cultural program, and it was
Okay.
officially handed over to. I couldn't go because, of too many pressures at work.
Okay.
But now I invite Rotarians to ask questions of Sudhir.
Don't ask too difficult questions. I don't know how to answer them.
Anyway, I want to add one more thing. This you were talking about restoration of buildings and old heritage. Not only does it preserve old heritage, the greenest building that you can build is one that you don't build at all, because there's no way you can actually build without impacting nature. So
Great.
if you can actually reuse an existing building, retrofit it to fit today's use, that's the most greenest development that you can do. So when I see these projects like the Fort High School and what you're talking about of restoring some of the other projects that you mentioned, St. Mark's Cathedral and Mysore Palace and St. John's Church and all these things, it's really, I too saved another near St. John's Church. There's another one called inside St. Francis Xavier's Cathedral school. There is a church which is more than 100, about 120 years old. They wanted to tear it down. Then we got hold of civil aid and got them to help us to restore the domes and put it back together. Now it's been 15 years since we've restored it. It's still going strong.
Okay.
So
Great. Great. We
yeah,
want many more people to do this. That should be the moment,
right.
That's very important.
Yeah. So any other questions from Rotarians? There's a question, are you doing any work on the smart city project of Bangalore?
No, we've not been doing. We were doing something for Smart City Kochi, which was earlier there with the initial planning.
Okay.
But we have not been doing anything in this part of it.
Okay. One question from Ramesh Dutt. Is there any reason why GNA started with Bangalore's unique style of architecture, but in the development appears to have lost? Any particular reason for this deviation? I think I'll rephrase the question. I'll read it out. GNA started with Bangalore's unique style of architecture, but in the development appear to have lost. Any particular reason for this deviation?
I think one has to understand during growth, see, for example, I'm talking of the software building has to house around, you're talking of 2,000 people. Okay, so how do you kind of connect these two? How can you create this distinctness at the same time, create this new kind of the number of people? How do you adapt to this? So we always keep the ethos in mind and see how we can adapt. So this has been a continuous understanding, and kind of we are also reflecting in what we can do. For example, the IBM building, you see the reflection. See, one must understand, if you look at Bangalore, architecture has been very progressive. As I showed you from the Pete till the new, it's continuously been moving and it's been influenced every time. So I think architecture is about how do you progress at the same time you keep your roots alive. So good question. Still, we are finding our answers.
Okay, I want to ask you, this project which you showed, the residents on facing the Bengaluru Lake, how do you keep the smell of the lake from spoiling their environment?
See, there are two parts. One is we don't have control over the beauty is the way it's designed. The breeze from the southwest to the northeast, it's located such a way that the breeze flows towards the other side. So we don't get most of the smell this side. So we have kept the wind direction in mind. And, so we have been fortunate, the wind direction is from southwest to the northeast. So most of the smell goes to the outside.
Any buildings in Bangalore, commercial buildings in Bangalore, other than, I won't mention anything, any building where you have used natural ventilation by just filtering the air? Because as we said earlier, except maybe in 1 month or so, the temperatures are quite bearable. Humidity may have to be controlled. And like right now, the humidity is very low, and the dust and noise from outside has to be controlled. Any buildings where you have used such a system?
actually we have done in a couple of other buildings in the north, wherein, see, you have a couple of challenges when you designed this thing. One is, see, in colleges, for example, we can kind of give this flavor of open courtyards and openness. It's just classrooms. But when we start looking at other facilities like software offices, we have what we have done in Delhi. It won a platinum rated. We changed the mode of air conditioning. Air conditioning, we use the radiant technology by just using water along the, we run pipes around the floor. So chilled water is run through the summer, and in winter, we just run warm water. The whole building is like if you're wearing a coat and it chills and cools, then you see it kind of, and we just throw in fresh air. So we are kind of seeing innovations in terms of these aspects, because one is you have to keep the built requirement also in place. So it's a kind of nice marriage between both. So some buildings in the north we have tried, and some of the institutions we have done. And if you look at all the BRL's projects, we were lucky to be associated with them, and from the Girijana Kendra to using the tribal itself to do all that,
So what has been your experience with dealing with Vastu requirements of clients?
Vastu, I think, I mean, as we are going at the moment, and I'm personally doing it, we are decoding some text. So we have a Sanskrit scholar in our office. I mean, this is some of the visions of Gayathri and Namith, saying that some of the things are half learned, it's half baked knowledge. So we have a Sanskrit scholar. So we have taken this 2-3 texts as Maya Mata and the other thing, and we are understanding what is the essence. A lot of these Vastu at the moment has come and misinterpreted and just caused fear that you grow northeast, you get money. You do southwest, you get, I mean, that's not the essence, like a particular plot is a cell of the whole universe, like how the human body, a cell of the human body can reproduce the whole body. Similarly, when you put a boundary to a site, all the aspects of nature is in that site. So it's an interesting science, which we are just now kind of understanding and trying to work with them. And it's a very, very interesting chapter. So we somehow try to tell the clients that let's be open and understand that than just getting into this fear psychosis.
Okay, a question from Kashinath Pai. How much does it cost to construct a heritage compliant building as compared to a normal modern construction, a conventional construction?
Yeah. So in this course of time, we have developed our own, some of our technologies. We have kind of in this progress of, we're doing a lot of projects in Hampi. So we built our own lime kind of a chucky, I don't know if you've seen the lime, if you see that bullock cart and running the lime, we have built that. And we started doing lime plasters and, so some of these newer materials are very carcinogenic. So we are trying to go back to mud plaster and lime, which still needs work. So it's a little more expensive comparatively. You compare, it would be around 25% more. So some places we've been kind of successful. Some places we're still on the experiment mode.
So another question, did the Swasa Homes project win any awards?
Not yet, because it's just launched, and we are enjoying that. The people are enjoying the place. A lot of the idea is we always want to create space that our director's vision is everybody should kind of imitate, because that should be the intent. See, people trying to use maximum FAR, but here we told the client that, I mean, the Swasa developers are some of the finest developers. They were in sync with the vision, and they told, let's not cap the FAR, at the same time do a good building, you get the price for it, So that kind of a thing was very successful with Swasa.
Okay, another question from Pragya. How can we get more natural light into our apartments?
We need to build less so that we build more, but it also depends on how in apartments you do face issues, because the builder wants to kind of maximize what he wants to build. So there are challenges, I must say that. But what we normally do is, when we design, we kind of give a lot of importance that a lot of our apartments should face or get maximum natural light and ventilation, So it all depends on how the designers are kind of planning at the planning level.
Yeah,
so in Swasa, sorry?
Go ahead, complete.
So in Swasa, for example, the way we did was we just put around 4 blocks. people would have put 8 blocks in that. So we just put 4. So all the directions and sun kind of all the apartments get these light into the building.
Okay, Pragya, you can also, if it's already built where you have no choice.
Yes, that's my old building. Yeah.
You can use light tubes. Fiber optic tubes are available. If you can put them, it will reflect natural light into the.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Another
Yes.
question for
Thank
Sudhir
you.
from Ramesh Dutt. Next to Vidyaranya police station, a police station is a house that has been built where even in the peak of summer, you have breeze and there is no need for even a fan. What is GNA's call on it?
Fantastic. You know, I would love to see that sometime, because I think that's the way forward.
Okay. Now, this precast, you were talking about a building where you used a lot of precast construction to tide over the lack of labor during the pandemic. What is it completed now? Building is completed?
It's in his the shell is I think it's an 8-floor building, so we finished 5 floors.
So when you are precasting custom-made panels for the exterior of the building, for example, isn't that going to make it far more expensive than labor-intensive techniques that we are used to?
I think, see, once when you look at the final numbers, the time used for the labor intensive and then the time used in precast, it comes to more or less, that's the exercise we were doing, you know. So in fact, in the pandemic, we kind of saved much more in terms of that. So the quality and the finesse, when you look at, in ours, our construction methodology has to still get better and better. So when some of the buildings, when it's precast, these large panels, we find that is a better solution, and it's not too much of design centric, more of large floor plates for software offices.
Okay, that is
okay.
very interesting and informative. Can President take over now?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sunil. You too, Sunil and Sudhir. It was like a jugalbandi. You posing good questions and eliciting answers, very interesting answers from Sudhir. Thank you very much, Sudhir, for coming over here and giving us a total the way the Bangalore had developed and your take on different architecture and how you people have been working. And what I really liked was going to government, which is what to say?
Scary thing.
No, not scared, not about that. Government is the last place anyone would want to work with. But you went to them and motivated them to use the place and to talk about themselves to the public, thereby engaging the public and them to interact with one another, and that way at least we'll have a better respect. And especially with water today being the water day, and water being the essence of life, is a fabulous initiative from you. Thank you very much. It was wonderful having you over here, and great to know that different projects you've been doing, different styles, and above all of them rooted in the nature. That's what I really liked. Thank you once again. We are very, very happy and proud to have you over here. Wish you all the best. Sunil, thank you very much also.
Thank you, sir. And I should thank Pearl and Prasanna. They were also helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if
have a good night.
She was the one who connected me with your team. Thank you. Thank you. The meeting is urgent. Good night, friends.
Thank you.
Pragya, thank you very much for anchoring today's.
Thank you, Krishna Arjun. Thank you.
Yeah.
Deepan, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.